students, welcome to English Studies class. I am Oluwabumi Fakoya. Trust you are enjoying your holiday. You are welcome to English Studies class. And of course, the topic that we'll be looking at today is still adjectives. Remember last class we treated adjectives. So today again, we're going to look at adjectives. But before we go into today's topic, let's look at the correction of the last given exercise. Now, I must appreciate some of you that turned into your assignment. I've gone through your work and you have done well. Keep it up and keep practicing. The instruction says, identify the adjectives in the following sentences. Identify the adjectives in the following sentences. The first sentence there is Ibadan is a large, busy city. Ibadan is a large, busy city. Looking at that sentence, you will discover that we have large as an adjective. We also have busy as an adjective. They are both qualifying Ibadan. Sentence 2. Becky's sister gave her a black heart. Becky's sister gave her a black heart. In that sentence, you will say that we have black as an adjective, qualifying heart. The third sentence now, we have her funny neighbor is hardworking. Her funny neighbor is hardworking. Looking at that sentence, you will say that we have funny as an adjective. We also have hardworking. I'm sure some of you are saying, why hardworking? Because of the ing behind it. Yes, we have some adjectives that are like that. We call them participial adjective. And of course, by the time you get to the senior class, your teacher will put you through on that. We also have different adjectives in that category. We have the swimming trunk. We have singing bird. We have missing baby, and so on. So let's take sentence 4. I bought some big tubers of yam. I bought some big tubers of yam. Now, looking at that sentence, we have some, and we also have big as adjectives in that sentence. Remember, we have adjectives of quantity, and we have some, many, little in this category. They are also referred to as determinants. Don't worry, don't let me bore you with the details. By the time you get to the senior section, you'll be put through on that. Sentence 5. That slim boy is a good dancer. That slim boy is a good dancer. If you look at that sentence, we have that. We have slim and we have good as adjectives in that sentence. So go through your work and grade yourself. We now move to today's lesson, which is still adjectives. Hopefully, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain proper adjectives with examples. We should be able to list and explain 3 degrees of comparison in adjectives with examples. Remember, at the last class, I told you that it is good to praise God. It is good to eulogize God. And we use adjectives such as awesome, wonderful, powerful, to praise God, and to also eulogize God. Likewise, men too. We also use wonderful adjectives too, to describe men. And of course, even at home, as a child, if you say, Mom, you are the most wonderful mom in the world, or you are the best mom, your mom will be very happy. She will smile. And of course, at that particular moment, if you table any request before her, it will be granted. The same thing is also applicable to adjectives. We use adjectives to describe men. We also use adjectives to describe God. So keep using adjectives. Now, last class, I told you we defined adjectives. And of course, I told you that we use adjectives to describe and to qualify noun. We use adjectives to describe and to describe noun or pronoun in a sentence. We also considered 5 types of adjectives. We looked at adjectives of quantity, adjectives of quality, demonstrative adjectives, possessive adjectives, as well as interrogative adjectives. So we're going to look at another type of adjectives today, which is proper adjectives. Proper adjectives. And what are proper adjectives? Proper adjectives are adjectives that are derived from the names of the different countries or continents of the world. These are adjectives that are derived from the names of different countries or continents of the world. They are always capitalized like proper nouns. Remember when you were taught proper noun, probably in the previous class, your teacher told you that when you are writing a proper noun, you must begin the first letter of your proper noun with capital letter. The same thing is applicable to proper adjectives too. We must capitalize the first letter of that word when we are writing those proper adjectives. Why? Because we derived them from names of countries as well as continents. Now let's take some examples of the proper adjectives. Can you even guess? Okay, let me give you some examples that I have here. We have African. African, derived from Africa. Take, for example, in this sentence, I like the images of African hearts. I like the images of African hearts. Let's look at another word, which is Chinese. Now, Chinese is derived from China. We say the Chinese man was invited to the party. The Chinese man was invited to the party. European, derived from Europe. We say many European countries are developed. What about Polish, derived from Poland? We say, I am married to a Polish woman. Remember, not the polish that we use in shining our shoes. The next one is Israeli, derived from Israel. We say, take for example, they are against Israeli policies. Remember in the Bible, we use Israelites. But in English, for adjectives, we use Israeli. Let's take another one, Filipino, derived from Philippines. We can say a Filipino truck driver was kidnapped. Let's take another one, Ghanaian, derived from Ghana. We say the Ghanaian woman has left. Let's take this one again. We say, what of Norwegian? Norwegian, derived from Norway. We can say, I like the Norwegian perfume. Okay, why do we need to use proper adjectives? It is important for us to use proper adjectives so as not to make our sentences too wordy. You can imagine if we have a sentence like this: the diplomat visited several nations on the continent of Africa. You see that sentence is wordy. But if we have a sentence that is concise, straight to the point. You know, it makes our reading very interesting. When we read, we enjoy it. Take, for example, the sentence I said the other time. Now, if you want to write it to be more concise, straight to the point, you can say, the diplomat visited several African countries. You can see the difference between the two sentences. Now, we shall now look at comparison of adjectives. Comparison of adjectives. We make use of comparison when we want to distinguish between the degree of one thing or person with another. We make use of comparison when we want to distinguish between the degree of one thing or person with another. We have three major degrees of comparison in adjectives. These include positive degree. Positive degree, this is the simple form of adjective. Take, for example, Kemi is fat. I'm sure you are trying to imagine somebody that is fat around you. Okay? Let's take the second degree of comparison, which is comparative degree. It is used to compare two things or people. Comparative degree basically is used to compare two things or people. Remember the first one, which is positive, one. The second one, comparative degree, is used to compare two things or people. Take, for example, Kemi is fatter than Eitayo. Kemi is fatter than Eitayo. Let's take the third degree of comparison, which is superlative degree. It is used when comparing three or more people or things. Let's take an example on this, which is Kemi is the fattest of the three girls. Kemi is the fattest of the three girls. Now, I must tell you that we have two major types of comparison. We have two major types of comparison. And what are they? We have the regular one, and we also have the irregular one. Now, let's take the regular one first. It is done in two ways. Let's look at the first one by adding ER and EST to the word. And of course, this is common when the adjective has one or two syllables. This is common when the adjective has one or two syllables. In other words, the comparative, we had ER to it. For the superlative, we had EST. Let's take this. Black, the comparative, blacker, the superlative, blackest. Another one, fieldy, fieldier, fieldiest. Another one, free, freer, freest. Another one, clever, cleverer, cleverest. Another one, nice, nicer, nicest. Brave. Can you give me the comparative? Say, braver, bravest. Quiet, quieter, quietest. Sure, surer, surest. Cruel, crueler, cruelest. We have many examples under this category. You can also look for the comparative and the superlative of this. Silly, clumsy, slow, sweet, heavy, fair, blue, brave, bloody, and so on. Look for more examples and practice with these examples. Now, let's look at the second part of regular adjectives. Now, this particular adjectives, we had more and most. So, we add more and most to the word. And of course, this is common with adjectives of 2 or more syllables. Adjectives of 2 or more syllables. Let me give you some examples. We have, for positive, we have terrible. We have more terrible, most terrible. Successful, more successful, most successful. Boring, more boring, most boring. Attractive, more attractive, most attractive. Handsome, more handsome, most handsome. Industrious, more industrious, most industrious. Popular, more popular, most popular. Careful, more careful, most careful. You can also look for more additional examples on this. Now, we quickly look at irregular comparison. These adjectives do not follow the regular pattern at all. Their comparative and superlative change in forms. Take, for example, for positive, we have bad, comparative, worse, and we also have worse for the superlative, good or well, better, best, little, less, least, hinner, hinnermost, out, outer, outermost, hop, hopper, uppermost, many, more, most, much, more, most, much, more, most. Far, we have father or further, farthest or furthest. Now take note of this. For father and farthest, they are used to express distance. They are used to express distance. Take, for example, our pastor lives in the farthest part of the town. And of course, for further and furthest, we use these two to mean additional. So just take note of this. We use this to mean additional. Now, the second part of irregular adjectives, we have this particular, we have some adjectives that cannot be compared because they have fixed meanings. Some adjectives cannot be compared because they have fixed meanings. Take, for example, we have wrong, secular, round, full, right, square, empty, perfect, good, final. So you have to take note of this. Now, in the class today, you have learned about proper adjectives, and you have also learned the two types of adjectives comparison. We have the regular and the irregular ones, and you have also learned the three degrees of comparison: positive, comparative, and superlative. Now, for your assignment, you can take the following down. Hey, use the correct forms of the adjectives in the brackets in the following sentences. You can see the sentences on your screen. And of course, you can also see exercise B too, which says, write 10 examples of the two types of comparison of adjectives, regular and irregular, that have not been mentioned in this lesson. Then C, can you try and compose a song to indicate regular and irregular comparison of adjectives? I'll be expecting your responses from different countries. Now, till we meet again in the next class, keep praising God, keep practicing, keep using adjectives, and stay safe.
Good day, students. Welcome to CRSM Virtual School. My name is Anema Adiasen. I teach biology. In our previous class, I gave you an assignment to consider some common fruits around us and place them into groups based on their structure. And I want to believe you were able to do it, because that is going to be our topic for today. For today, we are going to look at classification of fruit based on structure. Classification of fruit based on structure. At the end of today's class, you should be able to classify fruits based on structure. Now, before I go on, I want to reconsider some terms I used in the previous class, because we are going to come across them once again. So I'm just going to give a small brief of our previous class. Last class, I defined simple fruit as those fruits that are derived from only one ovary, whereas aggregate fruits are fruits that are derived from more than one ovary but on one flower. I also define composite fruits or multiple fruits as fruit that are formed from an inflorescence. When a fruit is formed from many flowers on one stalk, that fruit is a composite or multiple fruit. I also say that we have two main classes of fruit, false fruit and true fruit. True fruits are fruit that are formed from the ovary only, while false fruit are fruit that are formed from the ovary and other parts of the flower along with the ovary. So these are the terms we use during our previous class. I also mentioned in the last class that if a fruit can either be fleshy or dry. When a fruit is succulent and soft, has a lot of water in it, that fruit is fleshy. But when it is dry, the entire pericarp is dry at maturity, that fruit is dry. And then the dry fruits also have two types. The dehiscent ones, those ones that can break open and release their seed, like beans and Pride of Barbados, and indehiscent ones that are not capable of breaking at maturity, though they are dry, like tridacts and maize and so on. So those are the terms we used during our last class. So let's move to today's class. So we want to look at fleshy fruit, fruit that are succulent and has a water in them, fleshy fruit. So we want to look at the classes of fleshy fruit. We begin with drupe. We are going to talk about berry, which is the second class. Then we also consider the pome and sorosis. Don't be scared by the terms. It's inevitable. We have to learn these things. The first group of fleshy fruit is the drupe. A drupe is a simple true fruit that has an epicarp that forms a skin, a mesocarp that is fleshy or fibrous, an endocarp that is hard and woody, enclosing one seed. A drupe is a simple true fruit that has an epicarp that forms a skin, a mesocarp that is fleshy or fibrous, and an endocarp that is hard and woody, enclosing one seed. So the mango is an example of a drupe, because if you look at a ripe mango like the one I have here, you can see that all those layers are there. The mango fruit is a drupe. We also have the almond fruit. Is also a drupe. That's the skin, the fleshy mesocarp, and the very hard endocarp. I couldn't break through it. If I have to break the endocarp, it means I'll destroy the fruit, the almond fruit. We also have the palm fruit. The palm fruit. So it has the skin, all right, the part we see when we are looking at the fruit. It has the fleshy mesocarp, the middle part, and also a very hard endocarp. Very hard to break. If I had to break it, I would destroy the fruit. So these are examples of drupes. So you see that we have been able to place these fruit that really look alike into a group. So that is why we say we are considering the structure. Other examples of drupes is the coconut and the walnut. There are so many other examples. Once the fruit meets these characteristics, wherever that fruit is found in the world, that fruit is a drupe. We move to the next class, the berry. A berry is a simple true fruit that has an epicarp that is membranous, a mesocarp and an endocarp that is fused together to form a fleshy edible mass within which we find one or more seeds. A berry is a simple true fruit that it has a membranous skin. That epicarp is made up of a membranous skin. It has an endocarp and a mesocarp that is fused to form a soft, fleshy edible mass within which we find one or more seeds. So the cucumber is an example of a berry. So think of other fruit that if we split them open, they will look like this. So we have the tomato, it's an example of a berry. We have pepper, all varieties of pepper, all species of pepper are berries. We have the watermelon. We have guava. Okay. We have papaya, pawpaw is also a berry. So when once a fruit meets these characteristics, has a membranous skin, as epicarp, has a mesocarp and an endocarp that cannot be distinctly differentiated like the drupe, meshed together to form a fleshy mass with seeds inside it, that fruit is a berry. So we move to the next class, Hesperidium. Hesperidium is a special type of berry in which the epicarp and the mesocarp fuse to form a skin or rind. The endocarp projects inwards to form distinct chambers filled with succulent hairs. Hesperidium is a special type of berry in which the epicarp and the mesocarp fuse to form a skin or rind. The endocarp projects inwards to form distinct chambers filled with succulent hairs. A good example of Hesperidium is the orange fruit. Now I've been able to isolate or remove the rind from one of the oranges. This is the rind. It's a combination of the epicarp and the mesocarp. I was able to remove it completely. And then we see the chambers as they project inwards. The chambers, some of us, this is how we eat orange. We remove the rind and eat the chambers. And that is where the juice is filled within the chambers. So we now look at other fruits that look like orange. You know, when you look at them, they look like orange. So we have the lemon fruit. We have the lemon fruit. Can you think of other examples? We have lime. Can you think of other examples? So we have orange, tangerine, very good. I can hear somebody saying tangerine. So you look at all these fruit, they have these characteristics. So once again, we have been able to put some fruits that really look alike together. All right, so that is why I told you initially that we are concentrating on the structure. So fruit that look alike would definitely belong to the same group. So Hesperidium. The next class is the pome. The pome is a simple false fruit. It's a simple false fruit where the succulent, the fleshy edible mass is formed from the receptacle. Only the core is formed from the ovary. A good example is the apple. A pome is a simple false fruit where the fleshy edible part comes from the receptacle, is formed from the receptacle. Only the core of the fruit is formed from the ovary. Example, the apple. So we have the apple. Now if you split open an apple like this, you can see that the center, that's what I mean by core, the center of the fruit is the real fruit. Now the fleshy edible part where we eat is actually a part of the receptacle. So that central part of the fruit, the middle of the fruit, is what we call the core. And that part only comes from the ovary. So the apple is a pome. We have another example of a pome, that is the pear. So it's the same thing. Look at it. It looks just like an apple when you split it open. So you can see the central part of the pear looks exactly like what we saw in the apple. So the center is the core. And that is the part that comes from the ovary. The fleshy part we actually consume comes from the receptacle. That is why I said it is a false, simple but false, because the fruit did not come from the ovary only. So the pear and the apple are examples of the pome. Now we move to the next class, which is sorosis. Sorosis. A sorosis is a composite false fruit formed from a dense inflorescence. Every part of each flower forms part of the fruit. Only the core is obtained from the swelling of the stalk. A good example is the pineapple. A sorosis is a composite false fruit formed from a dense inflorescence. Every part of the flower forms part of the fruit. The stalk of the inflorescence swells to form the fleshy part of the fruit, which we consume. So a good example is the pineapple. So like I said, all these are flowers. Now if a fruit is formed from all of them at the same time and with only one stalk, that is a composite fruit and is false. So the pineapple is a good example of a sorosis. Now, like I said, if you split open a pineapple fruit, so at the middle you can see the stalk, the remnant of the stalk. When you're consuming pineapple, you discover that the middle part is always very hard, as it's not too sweet, does not have a lot of sugar. So that is just an extension of the stalk. You know, they have cut this part away, all right? The stalk gets up to this place, so it just gets swollen, all right? And then these are all the fruit formed from, the part of the fruit formed from all the flowers. Like I said last week, an average pineapple will have up to 200 of these square structures on it. Each of these square structures with spikes represents a flower. So we can actually say that the stalk, the inflorescence that formed this pineapple had 200 flowers on it, and each of them took part in the formation of the fruit. It was the stalk that actually swelled up to form the core, the central part, which we cannot, most people dispose of it because it's not sugary. So that is is a good example of a sorosis. Another example of sorosis is the breadfruit. It's also formed like the pineapple. It's formed like the pineapple. So this is a good example of a sorosis. So we have been able to classify fleshy fruits. So now we want to classify dry fruits that can break apart at maturity. Dry, the essence fruit. So dry fruit that can split open at maturity. The first group we will consider is the legume. We will consider follicle. We will consider capsule. 3 groups of dry fruit that can break or split open at maturity. We call them dry dehiscent fruit. A legume is a simple dry fruit that is long and flattened sideways. Long and flattened sideways. When it is ripe, the pericarp splits longitudinally along both sides to release the seed inside it. A legume is a simple dry dehiscent fruit that is long and flattened sideways. When the fruit is ripe, the pericarp dehisces longitudinally, that is splits open longitudinally, that is from head to tail, on both sides to release the seed inside it. So once the legume is matured, the pericarp will break open, you know, and these are the seed line up, and the seed can easily get out, be scattered around the parent plant. So all legumes look like that. So other examples of legumes is all the bean family. Brown bean, cowpea, all the bean family, they are legumes. We also have the groundnut is a legume. We also have the pride of Barbados. Actually, the example I use is a fruit or pod of pride of Barbados. This is a pod of pride of Barbados. So it's a good example of a legume. So all legumes, whether they are small or big like the one I have here, they look like this. All right, so that is a legume. Now we move to the next type of dry dehiscent fruit, the follicle. A follicle is a dry dehiscent fruit that split open on one side only at maturity. A follicle is a dry dehiscent fruit that splits open on one side only at maturity. A very good example is the kola fruit. So you see it on your screen. So you see that it is only one side that splits open when the fruit is matured. So that is a good example of a follicle. The next group is a capsule. A capsule is a dry dehiscent fruit that splits open at more than 2 places when ripe. A follicle is a dry dehiscent fruit that splits open at more than 2 places when matured or when ripe. Now this is a pod of the moringa fruit. Okay, it is a dry fruit as we can see. Okay, this is a moringa fruit. Now this is a matured moringa fruit, and this is the one that has split open on its own. All right, at more than, when once it is 2 places, it's going to be a legume. But when the splitting is just one side, that fruit is going to be a follicle. When the splitting is 2 places and above, the fruit will likely be a capsule. So this is the moringa fruit that I've split open to release the seed on its own. But this is the matured moringa fruit. So moringa fruit is an example of a capsule. Can you think of other fruit that look like that at maturity? We have the okra. The okra is a good example. We also have the fruit of the hibiscus. That's how it splits open at maturity. So these are all examples of dry dehiscent fruit. So as you can see, today we've been able to group fruit based on their structure. That is, if you split open a typical fruit, looking at the outlay of the pericarp, that is the epicarp, the mesocarp, and the endocarp, you should be able to know which group to place the fruit. So we looked at fleshy fruit that are generally fleshy, they are soft, and they are edible. And we also looked at fruits that are dry, but are able to split at maturity. We call them dry dehiscent fruit. And we were able to place them in their different classes based on their structure. So I want you to have that in mind, because next class we are going to continue with the fruits that when they are matured, they don't split open, but they are dry. So that will be what we will handle in the next class, along with dispersal of fruit, how fruit and seed are transferred from the parent plants to other places so that they can germinate, so that we have the vegetation we have all over the world now. Now for your assignments, you are going to consider 2 fruits. The first one is the garden egg. And another one is the orange fruit. So we assume this is our specimen A, and we assume the orange is our specimen B. Now you are going to tell me the classes of this fruit, the classes where they belong to. And then secondly, you are going to draw 8 to 10 cm of the transverse section of the orange fruit. 8 to 10 cm of the transverse section of the orange fruit. What I mean by transverse section is when you cut the orange across. So you have the head and the tail part of the orange. This is the longitudinal section from head to tail, but this is the transverse section. So just cut the orange across like this and draw whatever you see, 8 to 10 cm of the diagram. And then finally, you are going to state 3 differences between the orange fruit and the garden egg. 3 differences between the orange fruit and the garden egg. So try and do that, because that is what we are going to discuss next week, along with the remaining parts of today's topic, which is classification of fruits that are dry and indehiscent, and dispersal of fruit and seeds. So that is going to be our topic for next week. Remember, as children of God, we are supposed to bear fruit, like this nourishing fruit we talked about. We call them the fruit of the Holy Spirit, like love, faithfulness, joy, self-control, long-suffering, and so on. There are 9 fruits. Remember, I said that the presence of this fruit in your life is evidence that your life is becoming more like that of Jesus Christ. So till we see next week, stay safe. Bye-bye.